Hello and welcome to the Space Between Ideas. I'm Blaine Gates. Here we are on day number 99. I checked just to make sure. I can't really even believe it now. We're on day number 99. And again, I'm just like, oh wait, where were we 10 days ago? So, day number 99. Obviously, today we are going to talk about state resources. And then the question is, what are we going to talk about on day 100 and day 101? I think tomorrow for day 101, I'm going to talk about obviously the endeavor elements, and then we will talk about state progress, and then we are going to show how each of the checklists fits within the state progress checklist. And then that's it. Then you'll see everything. So, just a kind of a basic experience. So, I had an experience today. I have a new student, and so she's managing. She's a product manager, and they have a number of storefronts and also an online store. So, the first time when I talked to her, basically, I got the feeling like we should start with state teamwork because there's her. Like sometimes I use state teamwork because I like if you have a manager, but they're not really managing people. They're managing they're like a product category manager, and maybe they work mostly by themselves, or they haven't mentioned that they're managing other people. Then yeah, we'll start. Obviously, we're gonna start with state teamwork because like I need to find out who else are you working with. All right, so she's the product category manager. Then she works directly with a brand. Now, of course, they have a couple of different brands, but she wanted to talk specifically about one brand because this brand wants to push out the other brands on their online store, and they're offering a lot of incentives to do that. And then we talked about with state teamwork we talk about, well, like, what are your outcomes, what are your reuses, what are the outcomes, what does this brand want and what are the reuses, and then what does the online store want and what are the reuses, and then what do the storefronts want and what are the reuses. And then next we talked about how they all support each other, because that's like the main focus there of our conversation. There wasn't, and then suddenly today she was just like, and then there's this girl and she's an absolute witch. And I was like, what? Absolute witch? All right, so as soon as you mention like a specific other person, like a colleague, that's when you have to start diving into like the other side. So state teamwork, this is talking about people, projects. All right, let's get into the nitty gritty of these projects and see how we can figure out, make some changes or think through some problems. Then on the other side, we're talking about people. So now we're going to jump over. So rather than going from state teamwork down to state, for example, state inventiveness, and then to state assumptions, and then to state impact, rather than working on her actual projects, because I mean, to some extent, it sounds like she's quite successful. Let's focus now. I mean, we did this one checklist. Now let's jump over to state drive, and I want to find out what are the things that this witch is supposed to be doing, and then what is she actually doing, and then find out like what behaviors, what plans, what strategies do you have to make working with the witch a little bit better. But today we're not talking about either one of those categories. Today we are still talking about this taking inventory section. So we discussed taking inventory. We used the state progress checklist. And then yesterday we showed how the state synergies checklist fits within a variety of different areas of the state progress checklist. For example, guiding interactions. Obviously, you want to know which interactions. So who does that mean? Like if it's a business, then it's going to be somebody within that state synergies category. It's going to be a customer, it's going to be a provider, it's going to be a peer. And then of course there's also this other section for other synergies. And I mean, even in this book, the book Create Crucial Insight, he does mention, he has kind of like an example, sound funny, of like other, like, government services, public media, like academia. All right, see, like we never really talked about academia. How does academia connect? Are they a peer? Are they a provider? Are they like, what are they exactly? And media, how do you work with the media and the government and the public in general? So there are actually quite a few different places that you can talk about other. And then, like in the example from the salesperson, it says the enterprise encourages salespeople, candidates to meet with production and financial staff and to anticipate helping various people set prices. So it's not necessarily a peer. I mean, because they work in the same company, but it's just not actually a peer. These financial staff that are going to help to set prices. So there are other synergies that you can also add. Now today, then so that's guiding interaction, and then of course you're going to talk about state synergies when you're starting to make the plan. When you look at scenarios, obviously you're going to plug in elements of like how can you help your providers, your peers, other synergies, your customers, and then eventually when you choose a plan, then the next step would be to create effects. So then you put your plan into action, and then again you are going to be working with these people. So you can see how, the checklists, a lot of checklists, especially about when you're talking about taking inventory. Now, why do I call it take inventory? All right, so there's three things where we take inventory. One is state progress, which is the taking inventory, like each of the 9 areas of take inventory, each of the 9 areas of state progress. Like, let's take inventory from each of those sections. Let's figure out what do we got. But then obviously more specifically with state synergies, because you need to know like who's involved. And then today, of course, it's state resources. So this is the last checklist of our challenge. Ooh, it's so fantastic. All right. So state resources determine capabilities needed so that endeavors succeed. Determine capabilities needed so that endeavors succeed. So you're supposed to determine resources and practices associated with your project. They include skills and, well, we can go back to that. So you got to determine what's needed. And then you got to determine maybe what should not be included. Then, of course, you need to gather or grow those resources. And then you got to make sure that the resources or practices have appropriate skills and support. All right, so when we went through the state resources checklist the first time, we worked from the top and went through to the bottom. So today, let's start from the bottom. All right, so we got other. Now, other, it says that other might include, for example, brochures. So brochures could be a resource. And in fact, in his examples, for example, for the hire a salesperson example, it does say that marketing material would be in the other category. So you need your brochures. Now the next one up is time. Okay, so it says the theme is freedom, and the typical need is to have time. So there has to be enough time. Like if you are planning on, if you write down your goals. So I was talking to another guy yesterday, and he feels frustrated because he has his yearly goals set out. And then I created like kind of a new checklist. It's not really a checklist. It's just it's a to-do list. All right. So the to-do list, because I like tables so much, this to-do list is called this week, next week. So in one area on the left column, it just says name or description. So for each column, you just put in like the category of the thing that needs to be done. And then we have, of course, it's called this week, next week. So we have this week, and then next to that we have next week, and then one more column called next month. And next month is just like when you know something's coming up. Maybe it's 2 months from now, maybe 3 months from now, maybe it could be next week, but you're just not really sure. You're not ready to commit to it. Then just throw it into the next month category. Most important is this week. Now, this one person I was talking to, he was very, very frustrated because this week item, one of the items was urgent and important. He needed to do it now, and he's spending all of his time on this one thing. And the thing is that he feels pressure because there's 2 or 3 other things that he needs to be accomplishing, and if he doesn't start doing them like consistently, then it will like cause a problem for him to reach his yearly goals. And so that's the thing. It's like, and then not only work time, but you also have to have time to do other things. So this is actually a key idea of having time. So take inventory. How much time do you have? And that's one of the reasons why I work with people, is to help them to organize their time, to help people to think through problems, to make sure that they make appropriate decisions, so that the time that they have is used intelligently. One more up, it's called infrastructure. So maybe you have time to start a new business, and next you need to find that infrastructure. I made an order, so today is an exciting day for me. I have been using a MacBook Pro for exactly 10 years. The same MacBook Pro for 10 years. I bought it in China, bought it in Shanghai, which must mean I was in China in 2011 and 2012 and 2013. Then I moved to the US in 2014. That's when I met Tom Buchholz, the author of the book Create Crucial Insight. And I've had a MacBook ever since. And I've dropped it a million times, and I've been using it for 10 years, and it's never let me down. This is the kind of product that I like. So I decided to go ahead and get the new M1 Silicon MacBook. It's going to arrive next Thursday, and I just made that purchase today. So, and I hope it'll last me 10 more years. So it's like, I mean, that's like, it's, here we go. So if you jump up to, there's one called loyalties, or foster cohesiveness. And remember, loyalties is talking about loyal to entities, loyal to principles, are generally harmonious with, generally hostile to, or so forth aspects of endeavor. All right, so the endeavor I have is like to present these checklists, to work with people, to talk to people, help people to overcome emotional, intellectual, or creative hurdles in order to help them to achieve better results. So in order to do that, then, I need to have good infrastructure. And I have this, like, I am now loyal to the Apple brand. Like, okay, so, it's so expensive, right? But no. What are you talking about expensive? I used the thing for 10 years, and it never caused me a single problem. I never had to get it fixed once. I dropped it a million times. What do you mean expensive? Apple computers are cheaper, because there's not a lot of computers that are going to last 10 years. And if they are going to last 10 years, then they're probably more expensive than the Apple. So I would say that Apple computers are actually cheaper. It's called an investment. But of course, in order to, buy that computer, I had to have funds. You have to have funds to acquire services, and you have to have funds to acquire infrastructure. So you need funds to hire people. You need funds to accomplish work. Another one is reputation, motivate constituents. All right, so what kind of reputation do you have? Let's take inventory. And why do you have that reputation? What are things that you can do over the next year, 2 years, 3 years in order to develop a certain type of reputation? Entities. All right, so this was an interesting concept. We were talking about, like, how do you help people, like people who want to work with you? Do you have the capability of onboarding more people, of growing projects, of growing companies, of getting people involved, growing communities? Are you wise enough to know when to say no? Data. So data, of course, it's like, this is related to the state assumptions checklist. Do you have the data that you need? Do you have the ability to understand the data that you have? Do you have the ability to create knowledge? Do you have the ability to make insight with that data? And then eventually, because you got to make decisions, you got to have data to make decisions. And finally, skills. You got to have skills to pay the bills and to be able to perform that work. So determine the capabilities needed so that endeavors succeed. And that gives you a good way to take inventory. So I guess that's the final badge, the review badge. Yes, I just made that up. You know how I got my hands up like it's time to party. Obviously, it's a great day, you know. We just did day 99 and I got my new MacBook. So we just finished our review. So we officially finished the 101 themes by going through them one by one. Now we have completed the direct outcomes checklists, the review of each of the direct outcomes checklists. And now we just have day 100 and day 101. So tomorrow we will just we'll have the final review of the state progress checklist as it is. And then I'll just like talk briefly about how each of the other checklists kind of fit within the state progress checklist. And probably day 101, I'll just smile. I can't believe that we did it. Space between ideas, I'm Blank Gates.